Evening, everyone, and welcome to session number 4 on Twitch of the Boys from the Baltic Star. As you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, follow us on Twitter at Boys Baltic. My name's Luke. I'm in the bottom. All the ats. My name's Luke. I'm in the bottom corner where I belong. The one who's got the headphones that looks like he's just done a multi-kill in Call of Duty and he's about to teabag you. That is Ewan. And
I've never done a multi-kill in my life.
Oh, but you have teabagged some. And the man all in the luxurious red, as he should be, is our esteemed referee, Ben, who will guide us through this evening's adventures. Over to you, Ben.
Okay, so the story so far, concentrating exclusively on last week's episode, you understand. On Osin, the travellers have seemingly dealt with the threat posed by the Black Sun mercenaries, but still know nothing about the mysterious Falco who led the mercenaries to the system. They met with Papa Krebs, the local governor, and made a general agreement with him, not details, but a general agreement for future cooperation in exchange for his help with some warehouse space by the downport. They were invited to the annual speech he gives in his office suite. After a trip to purchase a couple of kilograms of potassium cyanide, for reasons that the players haven't yet let me in on, two of the travellers, Agnar and Soraya, made a trip to the carrier Italia to visit in orbit with Officer Pramus. A rather vague discussion where nobody gave a lot away, before they raced to a meeting in Fredericksburg, the city, with the legendary Stanley Strife. They were led through the rather more well-appointed areas of the city where Strife makes his home to a waiting room. And that is where we resume the story. So the waiting room is roughly rectangular. There are 2 doors on each of 2 facing walls. It sort of looks like the way somebody who'd heard what a royal waiting room would sound like or would look like. They'd read descriptions of it, but they hadn't necessarily ever been to one. So they didn't necessarily know exactly how it was supposed to appear. And so it looks a bit over-decorated in some areas and a bit bare bones in others. There's a very large, quite plush rug in the centre of the room, some decorations around the wall, and 4 benches, basically, by the walls that don't have doors on them. And there you wait for a while. So it's probably time to roll for initiative, isn't it? No, sorry. I'm kidding.
Roll for survival. Are there many other people in the room besides us?
There are 3 other people in the room, all sitting separately and looking consumed with their own thoughts, I think it's fair to say.
I believe ages ago, Cara did a search on Krebs. I think it was like 2 sessions ago. She started a computer search. Has there been any comeback at all? Just finding out more about the Papa.
Yes. In fact, she got quite a lot of information on Papa Krebs. So let me just quickly remind myself. What did she get? Okay. Papa Krebs is a career Imperial employee who went into their diplomatic corps, essentially, and spent a few years making his way fairly rapidly up the ladder before he made his way to Dillabrew, where he served in a fairly significant but not massively public-facing role, and then completely drops off the grid for about 5 years, and then re-emerges suddenly as the governor of Osin. He was what you might call a rapid appointment, following the unexpected vacancy of the role, and he turned up accompanied by his own assistant, Sil Sava, who you've actually met, and immediately took over and started making the place his home.
How long ago was it that he became the governor of Ossen?
A little over a year.
Okay. It's not long. Cool, thank you. So she'll be sort of looking at her little tablet, taking in this interesting information. Sounds like he starts doing something, then he gets big, vanishes again, a bit like a Krebs cycle, I feel. But there he's here. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
That pun's worth -1 on your first initiative roll.
I think quite fair. I think quite fairly, to be honest. -1 is being generous. Okay, so is Johnny with us still?
Johnny is indeed with you, yes, and still looking a bit nervous. It has to be said. He's quite tense. He's alert for trouble, I suppose it's fair to say.
Do any of the three individuals in the room, do any of them look particularly nervous?
I would roll a streetwise or survival. Streetwise or no, probably just streetwise for that. Actually, with intellect.
Well, Stefan's intellect is a big old 0.
Strong streetwise though.
But yeah, reasonable. That is a 7 + 2 is a 9.
A 9. Okay. They look stressed, but you don't really spot anyone appearing to be nervous. At least not obviously.
Outwardly,
no.
So okay.
There's a combination of, anxious and bored, I guess. They may have been waiting for a while.
Okay, and they all look like they've sort of been in this. Would I be able to tell whether they look like they're accustomed to this sort of place? They know what they're getting in for. I mean, I guess they don't look worried.
With that kind of role, I don't think you're going to get any deep knowledge. Sorry.
Sure. No, that's fine. That's fair enough.
Cara will look at Johnny as a whisper, and she'll say, "Do you know what we should expect from Strife? Is there any way that we should approach him, talk to him? Any big mistakes that we could avoid?"
It's not to bring up.
Yeah.
Coming here was probably a big mistake, I guess. Yeah, I don't know the man, of course. So I couldn't really give you much advice. From what I hear, he's quite astute, so I wouldn't try misleading him too much.
Okay. That's good.
I think that's kind of a given, given his position, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Johnny. Okay. Well, I guess we'll settle back and pop the odd peanut into our mouth and wait and see what happens for a bit.
Okay. It's around about half an hour before a young man comes to the door, opens it and peers in. He looks as bored as it is possible for someone to be while remaining on their feet. And he looks around the room, points at your group, and completely silently just beckons you. Yeah. And walks out, leaving the door open.
Our number's up. And we'll, I guess Cara and Soraya both clamber to their feet and head after him.
Okay. As you leave, you enter a gap between two artificially built bulkhead walls. Not that they're really all that strong, and turn right, moving down into an open space, which you saw as you approached. It's just an open space at one end of the waiting room. He leads you around a corner to the left, and then past a door on your left, which indicates that what's behind there is a public bar. And then on the right, he walks up to, doesn't knock, and just opens a door, which leads straight into what appears to be a bedroom, but a sort of custom kind of bedroom. It's a couple of tables, a couple of single beds, and it looks as if it's kind of emergency quarters for security guards. It's extremely bare, extremely plain. There's no sense that people actually live here. They just kip here when they are supposed to be the obstacle between Strife and anyone coming for him. He leads you straight to another door, which leads through into a relatively small meeting room, a large square table, 8 chairs around it. And he indicates that you should sit at the table. Again, not saying anything, just waves at the table, and leaves through a door off to the side.
Lovely. Is there anything that shows a seat, stuff in front of a seat that we probably shouldn't be sitting in front of? Do you know what I mean? Like
the power seat.
The power seat, like it's got a big wing back chair or something.
Yeah.
A smouldering cigar and an ashtray.
Chairs.
Really tiny chairs.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. It appears to be just 2 chairs on each side of a square table.
Cool. Well, Cara will definitely plop herself down first. Sort of dump what she's carrying a bit sort of next to her and a bit on the desk in front, like a school kid getting into school in the morning. And then Sarai will drop down a couple of chairs along from there, I guess.
Okay.
They'll leave the one. Sarai will sit with her back to the door, knowing that Stefan probably wouldn't want to. So so she's happy to take that spot, knowing that he's the man to sort of keep his eye out.
Is there just the door that we came in through?
There are 2 doors. There's one essentially to the east, which you came in through.
Yeah.
And there's one to the south, which your silent guide left through.
Okay, so if Stefan's sat on the north edge of the table, he could potentially see both.
Yes.
He will do that. And Agnar will take a seat. Are we one on each side at the minute? He'll sit on the 4th side and then
just to confuse
breaks down. Oh no, it just breaks down. It's more of a communal feel then, isn't it?
I like it.
It's not us and then he's on one side. It's
like a round table. I like it.
He knows a bit of management.
Johnny looks dubiously at the chairs, like he wants to stay on his feet in case he has to run or something. But eventually he sort of thinks, this is silly. They told us to sit down. I'd better do what I'm told. And he pulls up the chair next to Cara and sits down.
Cara will do that little while like reassuring her, it's all right. It's all right.
Calm down.
Calm down. We're all right.
Relax.
Relax. Chill, man.
Okay. Moments later, the door opens, the south door, and through it comes a fairly enormous Varga. He is, by any standards, big for a Varga. Varga are usually relatively skinny. This guy is muscular. And he stands in the doorway, surveying the scene. And he says, "So, you wanted to see me?"
Agnar will stand as he enters the room. He's quite a formal person. Yes, yeah. Thank you for seeing us. Where to begin? And sort of looks around the table.
How's Johnny looking?
Out of the corner of your eye, you can see Johnny slowly slipping down in his chair like he's trying to be as invisible as possible.
Have we introduced you to our friend Johnny?
Yeah.
Grant?
He's the one that suggested we should come and visit you.
Yes. Johnny, take it away for us.
Yeah. What did you want us to say? You had a deal you wanted to make, you say.
Something about a fiddle competition.
Cara will say, thank you for meeting with us. We won't mess you around. I'm sure your time is money. You're a busy man. And I'm sure you've known we've been on the planet for the last week. Thank you for agreeing to see us. We wouldn't take up your time unless we had something we felt was important to tell you.
Good.
Since we got here, we've noticed a few things. I'm sure you heard we went over to the mine to get that working again.
I did hear that. In fact, I am quite grateful for you for that, and we'll come back to that in a minute. I do have a couple of questions.
Cool. Well, we'll be happy to answer them. We've been here. We have met. It wouldn't surprise you to know that Papa, the big Papa Krebs, asked for our presence to meet him, and we have been there. I'm sure you're aware of that as well.
No, but doesn't surprise me.
And I guess we've been making friends and probably a few enemies as we've gone. We've had some scraps with a group called Black Sun, and seemed to come out okay on it. And we've got some leads on that, and and so that's how our week's been. And thank you for your hospitality. But before we go, I guess in a couple of days' time, I guess we've got some things to talk about more deeply, if that's okay.
You have my attention.
First of all, what were your thoughts about all the problems at the mine? I'm sure you've got other men to worry on a more day-to-day basis, but it's from what we heard, there were problems there quite frequently.
Well, I suppose, since you bring it up, let's have a quick discussion about the mine first.
Fantastic.
You see, the mine's been operating for quite a lot of years, and the crew that operated it, they're technically quite skilled. Back when Neocasta ran it, it was a pretty swift operation. It made a lot of money. And then we arranged for Neocasta to have some staffing difficulties, which made it difficult for them to continue to run it. And they eventually decided it would be easier if we ran it. And they very kindly left us to run the mine. We offered a reasonably generous package to their existing staff to stay on. After all, these are experts, technicians of note. And everything was going very smoothly. And then one day it wasn't. And then I am told the reason. And the reason turns out to be an infestation. An infestation of a species that has never been seen on this planet. In fact, no species is native to this planet. And no new drilling has gone on. No new mining has gone on. They just suddenly showed up, as if by magic. So, here is my curiosity. Those kind of animals are rare, but I'm capable of researching as well as anyone else, and I discovered that there were places you could find them if you wanted them, say to put down the mine. for some reason. Which makes me wonder if it is your opinion that one of our former Neocaster employees deliberately sabotaged the mine. Or possibly someone else.
We wouldn't be coming to you if we weren't sure that we knew who was behind the problems in the mine. Like you say, when we first went down, the infestation was there. When it went dark, when the lights went out, they came scurrying out, and they came to feed on the energy. These, like you say, otherworldly creatures. And you're right. There was no way they could have been there naturally. It didn't make sense. Didn't make evolutionary sense. Didn't make any sort of sense at all. So, but we did our job at the time, and it was only later that we found that the reason has everything to do with Neocaster.
Yes.
And someone who has a big vested interest in the return of Neocaster.
Yes. Someone perhaps employed by Black Sun at the moment.
Depends. Who are you thinking of?
I just heard word Falco was back in town. It could be him. He was my first thought.
We've run into Falco. In fact, I don't know if you've heard of that. We went up into orbit to chase off the remaining Black Sun, and we did come across him.
Very briefly, mind you. I wouldn't say that we investigated much into why he was there.
He's not that much of a conversationalist, as I recall.
He lets his weapons do the talking, from what I could tell.
Or his boots, as
boots.
The case may be in this situation.
From what I hear, his weapons and his boots are usually the same thing.
That's interesting. It's possible. I would not be surprised if he was the hammer to strike the iron, if that makes sense. But we do believe there was a man wielding the hammer. And now you mentioned that, the potential link there is very worrying indeed. Because I will be honest, we were told by the man himself that Papa Krebs caused the shutdown of the mine in order to chase you guys back from control of it and to try and get Neocaster back in and stop any money going around that he wasn't involved in.
Krebs told you this himself?
He did. He invited us in for a meeting. When we landed a few days ago, Stefan here did something equally brave and potentially foolhardy.
Stefan waves across the table.
He glances across at Stefan and sort of sizes him up briefly. It's like, you get the impression he's like, yeah, I can see he'd do that.
That fits the description, certainly.
If you look at his fingers, he's got very delicate fingers. They seem to bend in one too many places.
Mm-hmm.
They can fit into many pockets without people feeling it. And it turned out we ended up with an amount of money that we shouldn't have been in possession of.
A sizable deposit.
Oh, I see. I have an agent in the field who, well, he's convinced it was taken by Black Sun, but, well, yes, that would make sense as well. Fair enough. I take it then you're here to return my money.
We could certainly. So,
Stefan just chips in quickly and just says, "Who was the agent, if you don't mind us asking?" I mean, I have a name in mind, but
As I suspect you know him quite well by now, I'm sure you know I'm talking about Sever.
we do indeed. We do indeed. But just so we're on the same page, everything clear.
yeah, I think there's something that it's not our money, but I think would it be possible to sort of metaphorically put it on this nice table as part of our ongoing conversation and a bigger picture, if that's okay? Just to hear us out. At least hear us out.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic. So we came into this amount of money, and it turns out that Krebs found out about this money. He found out he has been looking to find out how much is being swapped without him being part of it, and he wanted to know the exact amount. And he called us in to be friendly, and it turns out he knew all along. We were, we weren't letting on. It was, in our mind, it's none of his business. Of course, it's nothing to do with him. It's not his money.
Right.
But he knew already, which was surprising, to us. How he'd know. So I guess that's the second piece on the table, if you may. We have the money, which we're willing to, it's not ours, that's fine. And Papa Krebs knew the exact amount, and to him, that news is glorious.
He did seem rather happy.
He did seem rather happy.
Can you roll a deception for me, please?
Oh no. Do I get to add anything else to that? Is he drunk? No way. Persuading?
Yeah. In this case, it'll be intellect.
Okay, that's all right at least. Oh, I haven't walked these though.
Deception.
Oh, that could be enough though, unless he's really good. Not quite as good as last week, but I'm hitting a 10 plus 2 without any deception, so that's a 12.
That is
12. Okay, yeah. All right. He so far, he seems absolutely enthralled with your story.
Okay. Good. I'm trying to tell it quite well. I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember all the bits. We had a list of all the bits.
Yes, I'm just trying to remember exactly which bits you're lying about. So,
what you know and what's true, and what you're lying about, and what
none so
you're
far.
pretending to know.
Right. So what have I done? I've done that. I've done that. So I've done the money. I need to make a note as well. Hang on. Bit out of character.
Yep. Understood.
The money. Krebs knowledge. Okay, that's good. So, okay, that's the second piece on the table. Do you ever have interaction at all with the Imperial fleet in orbit around the planet at all?
Well, they don't generally come down here for shore leave. There's not an awful lot to do. But every now and then we get one pop into a casino or something. That's about it.
Have you ever heard of Pramus?
Not that I can think of.
Car
Stefan says, well, that's the third thing on the table.
Car returns to... Was it Agnar that went up? Yeah,
Agnar and Soraya.
She said, Agnar, how would you describe Pramus?
I would say she's a bit of a non-entity, I suppose. I don't think there's any record that... The impression I got, there's certainly not going to be any record that she's ever been here, let alone the record of what she's actually doing here. I might be well off here, but you know, I got the impression she's pulling some strings, and she might possibly be doing something else on paper.
Okay. So, do you know what role she has on the ship or in the fleet?
Enough to get us clearance off world to a different location, and have us dock with the ship with no record of such a thing being maintained by the Imperium. I think that's an accurate description of her level of authority.
So, bridge officer, possibly an intelligence officer, something like that. Okay.
I'd say the amount of, through our discussions, I say the amount of the amount that she seemed to say to us that we could discuss today definitely suggests more intelligence than bridge officer.
Okay.
With some authority.
Yeah.
She, I think it's safe to say that she certainly made some decisions as part of our conversation, which implied that she had some form of authority within the Imperium.
I see.
And again, I may be reading far too deep into this, but...
So did she say anything about me or the guild?
She said something which I'd like to bring up as another piece to our puzzle in shortly, if that's okay. If we can put that there, as a big piece, and we'll definitely come back to that.
You seem to be offering an awful lot of things to me at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm yet to hear what you're expecting from me in return.
Oh, well, we'll get to that.
I mean, I think our hopes is surely that we'll be able to take one of those pieces with us, perhaps. But we can discuss once all the pieces are available to be viewed, Agnar. Well, so.
Okay.
They can be shared out as you feel fair, I guess. Cara will say a name that's come up a few times, Neocaster.
Yes.
How do you feel about Neocasters? They make life better, worse, or not at all?
We had 1 to 5.
Yeah, 1 to 5. Let's go 1 to 5. Let's
yes.
we're trip
Please
advising.
review.
We're trip advising.
1 being incredibly poor and 5 being
like. To be fair, the docking guy on the Italian did get a 4.5.
Oh, he did. So,
yeah. So this is where you leave a sort of a restaurant review. Yes.
Yeah.
Neocaster, we had a fractious relationship when they were on World. It's become much more peaceable since they've left.
Do you like the idea of them staying away?
Oh yes, very much.
Okay.
What I'd really like is the idea of them staying away and not even threatening to come back.
Okay. That's very interesting. I think that's a piece we can definitely add to the table.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, that's Neocaster. Money, the Krebs' knowledge, premise, Neocaster. Can we put a rather imposing, beefy piece on the table?
By all means.
Stefan, on you get. No.
Stefan gets up and starts doing that.
Yes. Stop.
You can leave your hat on. Yes.
Okay.
Sever, how much do you trust him?
As much as I trust anyone, I suppose.
Okay, that's good. That's a healthy willingness to trust or mistrust as the need requires. If I was to say, Sever is a piece that connects a number of these other pieces it must be said. And we'd say that you're right not to fully trust Sever, because he was the man who, from what we could tell, told Krebs how much money was on that chip, and has been working somewhat as a double agent both ways. I don't know if you're aware of that. He's not one of your men, but I know that you call him in for help as needed.
He certainly, Stefan will chip in and just say, he told us that he sent us down the mine because he didn't think we were up to it and we'd fail.
But our feelings.
I know.
Yeah.
Definitely hurt Stefan. Stefan's got some touchy feelings, you know.
Yes. 1 second. He leans back through the door, which he's still standing, almost in the entrance, and beckons over his silent assistant and leans over to him and says, Sever, I want him in the waiting room as soon as possible. And then he turns back to the table. Thank you. And continue.
Okay, we'll leave Sever there for now. Right, you want to talk about Pramus's opinion of you, I believe, and how Pramus... That was it, what Pramus said about you, what she feels about the planet as a whole, I believe was what you said. Now, we spoke to Pramus. We didn't... We'll be honest, we didn't take to Krebs. I'm sure many people don't.
Yes, I think that's a fair assessment of the man.
And to be honest, when we found out that he was the one that was behind the mine, we took to him even less. And that was a central point of when we went up to speak to Pramus. And she didn't like the fact that he had done that to the mine either. In fact, Pramus didn't like it so much that she said she'd, in not so many words, of course, she's, we believe she's intelligent, that she would not be upset if the governorship were to change.
Oh, I see. Well, this is a remote world. A lot of hard vacuum around. Accidents do happen. A governor could fall prey to something at any time. It does happen.
Agnar chips in with, it's happened before, I think, from what we understand.
Statistically, it's almost bound to happen.
Now, Pramus shares your view of not really caring for Neocaster. I guess they're, as much as they can be to someone like the Imperium, they're a bit of an annoyance. She, having them around doesn't make her life easier.
Right.
And if there was to be, let me get her exact words. And I'd say this is a very large piece going on the table right now, if you don't mind.
You won't mind if I make my own assessments as to which are the larger and smaller pieces?
No, please don't. No. She said, murder is not acceptable, but a popular uprising is.
You can arrange one of those?
A popular uprising? We're not very popular.
You surprise me.
Well,
Now, a wise man told us that there's a group within this room who are by far the most popular group on the planet, if, for example, elections were held, there would only be one winner.
I take your point.
And Frema, speaking as she did for the Imperium, the Imperial fleet, seemed to suggest that would not be against their best interest in maintaining, I guess, a status quo within the system.
Order, I think, was her key message, which again, going back to the popular uprising rather than somebody sticking a middle finger up at the Imperium by killing their man in charge.
Yeah.
So you're proposing that we select our own leader and abrogate the need for the Empire to send a governor at all?
Oh, I can't remember what she said now.
I think I think if there was a popular uprising and there was a popular candidate for leader, it would go a long way.
I know that,
and I'm not saying that they would have to have nothing to do with the Imperium. I think that's a ridiculous statement. But
you can't be without Imperial influence. We are in the Imperium.
Exactly.
I think
you can run a relatively autonomous place or be very much under their thumb. It's a matter of degree, I suppose.
And you can choose your battles if you have the right person in charge.
You are losing two middlemen, I guess. You would be the corporations. The other corporation we've not heard bad things of, but the one corporation that Neocaster and Krebs are two middlemen that, might make communication clearer, more direct.
It would certainly make your life easier if they were gone. From our understanding. Our simple understanding.
So, well, what you're bringing me here I find quite interesting. Interesting indeed. What you're suggesting can't be done with weapons. If there's gunplay, if the governor is killed, if there's trouble, then the Imperium will intervene. They'll have to.
Tomorrow evening, there's a large evening, an annual festival, I believe.
There is, the governor's speech.
There's a lot of people around. A lot of people go out to drink and enjoy that time. Eat out, stand around, have a nice time.
We were invited, I believe, to attend.
And he intends,
on some level.
That is the time when he intends to announce to everyone how much money exactly you're offering out to Neocaster. This is his moment of glory, he sees it.
I see. Well, that would be embarrassing. So perhaps we should arrange to interrupt his speech before he gets to that juicy part.
It would definitely feels like it would be a good time rather than after, probably.
Or at least arrange things so that he's wrong and he makes a fool of himself. But I would imagine cutting him short would be the better option.
Well, in that case, we need to come up with a plan, don't we?
We do. Can I add 2 more pieces to this table? So we have just so that we can have our 9 pieces around which a plan can be constructed, I assume.
Excellent. More pieces sounds good.
All right. Piece number 8, you've asked, what's in it for us? What is in it for us? I hope that we're building, you say your trust goes as far as you believe it goes, and I wouldn't want to be assuming any kind of friendship, but I believe there's some kind of rapport at least at this point. We're dipping our foot into the world of trading, and we would very much love the possibility when any dust has settled, which of course, we're how the dust rises in the first place is to be discussed, of course, but when the dust has settled, if there would be a chance of some storage space and maybe a slight preferential treatment in rates that we can, and with open communication for what might be needed on Osin, maybe some special under-the-counter goods or things that are hard to get, that a two-way agreement in that respect. That would be our Baltic Star piece.
Okay. Well, if this all works out the way you're proposing, I think I can afford to be extremely generous.
Fantastic. And the final point is on behalf of someone else, I guess. And I saw you call in for Seva to attend. The Imperial fleet, he has been communicating back to them. And part of the deal is that in anything that goes down now, his safety is assured, and that he will be moving on to another planet elsewhere.
You want me to allow Seva to leave?
It's not us that want it, you see. It's the lady giving you at least her eye turned away.
Okay. So let me recap. Seva has betrayed me. And betrayed me to Krebs. He's also in communication with an intelligence officer of some kind in the Imperial fleet. She, however, has need of him. So I'm not supposed to take any kind of action against Seva. However, if he can be sidelined, you will see to it that he's off-world and no longer a problem to me.
End of the week.
As soon as we leave, yeah. I think he leaves.
I think she arranged for him to board with us and for us to drop him off, and yeah, he's gone.
Okay. Understood. Meanwhile, we need to somehow interfere with or interrupt the speech given by Krebs and deal with the revelation that he was directly responsible for the problems at the mine. See, I suppose the truth is he wouldn't want that to get out. The mine's important to the people of this planet.
And if that would sway the popular opinion against him, I think that could certainly be a good interruption and a good piece to spur the people on.
It's too complicated an argument. He would throw out the money that we're paying near Castor. We would throw out the sabotage at the mine. People would have to pick a side. I like something simpler. I think your instincts are right, but make it simpler. Instant. It has to be by common acclaim, not through committee.
He'll be eating and drinking at this festival before his speech, I assume. There'll be some kind
presumably.
And we don't want something as obvious as a shooting, an assassination, something of that sort, something that is messy.
Agreed.
A silent death, something in the background. something that can never be seen, maybe. We've come across cyanide on this very planet, in fact.
Doesn't surprise me. We extract gold here.
And we're taking... we're completing a deal for it tomorrow morning. And we are, I guess, guests with him tomorrow. So we could potentially be that, I guess, silent velvet glove upon your fist. If these 9 pieces head in the right direction, of course.
And assuming I would assume that an intelligence officer in the Imperium would be aware of this, but ideally they wouldn't be willing to admit it publicly due to embarrassment, perhaps. And they'd be happy to sweep it under the carpet with whatever was laying there when the dust settles, as my friend suggests.
Roll persuade with social for me.
Both of us, as we're both talking to him, or...
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
At least I've got good persuade. You've got the good social, yeah.
I've got Stefan.
Oh,
He's got
no.
a social 0.
Oh,
He's got
no.
persuade 1. Oh, he did get an 11.
Oh, that's even better than Kara's. She's gone 7 plus 2 plus 1 is 10.
Plus 1. So it's 12.
Okay. All right. He thinks about
That's
it for
a
a
good
second.
team effort.
That's good teamwork, man. A virtual high five. Hang on. You left me hanging. I don't believe it.
No, very cool.
He thinks about it for a second and he says, okay. So you will deal with the governor. You will arrange for me to be invited to the party.
I think he would be delighted at the thought of seeing the look in your eyes when he shared his dirty little secret.
I think you're probably right, but he hasn't actually invited me, so I will need an invitation.
Okey-dokey.
We'll suggest the embarrassment would be good for you, if you don't mind.
Excellent.
I'm sure his ego will do the rest.
Yes.
You'll have to make sure the Hollow crew is in the right place and make sure someone's with them, so when it happens, someone can steer them to filming me instead of him.
Okay. Need to steer film crew to him, yeah.
And you will have to get prior agreement from this Pramus that I can announce at the time that I am handing over the investigation of this horrible, unfortunate demise to our expert Imperial services in orbit. She doesn't actually have to investigate, you understand, but she can't come out and say, I never agreed to that or I'm not doing that.
Makes a lot of sense. Yep.
And then all you need to do is give me the right moment and I'll prepare a speech.
Fantastic.
And the whole poison.
That you'll have to do, yes.
So, I would assume we'd agree that Pramus's price for that initial turning of the eye and allowing a happening would be Sever's life, and Sever to move on out of your way and leave with us at the end of the week. That would be her price, I would imagine.
Seems what she's quite keen on.
And
yes.
And for us, I feel that the warehouse and the trade deal is a fair price for everything we've bought to you so far and made you aware of everything. But we'd like to think, and Cara looks down at the imaginary place where she'd like put with her hand, the 50 mega credits, the 50 mega credits that bit. She sort of looks at her, strokes her chin a little bit. So we'd like to think that this sort of work we're doing, while maybe not worth a month's worth of ore from the mine, there's an amount we can come to as an agreement. To ensure the smooth running of tomorrow.
I'll tell you what. You transfer the money to me. We'll see how tomorrow goes. And I will be as generous as I feel is appropriate afterwards.
Okay. Cara will look at Agnar and Stefan, raise an eyebrow.
I don't know. Does he look like he's? Do we believe him? Is he being honest?
You'll have to roll probably a sort of a streetwise, or actually maybe a deception check. Yes, a deception check with intellect.
Could I take the streetwise instead?
You know what? I think you probably can under this circumstance, because you're trying to determine.
Because Stefan will definitely be the paranoid one.
Oh yeah, he's the one that's sort of looking him up and down, not being sure. Yeah.
Yes, either of them would be with intellect.
Okay. That's a 5 plus 2 is 7.
Okay. As far as you can tell, you have no reason to disbelieve him, beyond the fact that obviously he has every reason to lie. But I mean, that's purely the financial.
No reason to disbelieve him on a 7.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Stefan slowly nods. Just, yeah, I think they both agree. I don't suppose there's much other choice, Agnar will say.
Cara will say, there's a few things here that you need to know that we've done. Is there any way, can you give us a way to make contact directly or as directly as possible with you during the day tomorrow so that you know, or to drop off or make a sign or something so that you know it's all systems go?
Yes. Yes, I can give you a contact detail with a secure communication. Absolutely.
Okay.
Agnar will say to him, and when Sarah arrives in your waiting room or your meeting room after your waiting room, he obviously can't know about any of this. Chances are it will lead back to Papa. Have you got a reason that you could have called him in for, aside from the real reason? Ideally, he doesn't know that we've been here tonight, I suppose.
That shouldn't be difficult. I can have him redirected to the bar opposite, and I'll task him with security duties for the party that is scheduled to happen there tomorrow night. We also take the opportunity to watch the broadcast, you see, and raise glasses and jeer at the screen.
Yeah. Throw the glasses at the screen.
There's not a lot to entertain people, you understand, on this planet. Something that happens once a year, even if it's sickening, you still make a drinking game out of it. So I'll have him directed there to survey the place now and then spend all day tomorrow preparing for it and then handling security at the bar here. That shouldn't be remotely awkward for him, and he can watch the events unfold on the Hollow.
Agnar also, just quickly, sorry, Luke, says once we've relayed your invite to you, is there any chance that you could that you would be able to handle security at the location of the pre-speech dinner? I know it's hard to say without knowing where that is, but theoretically.
I think it's fair to say what security there is will be very much the governor's own people.
Okay.
I find it unlikely he would allow me to bring anyone. Not even a date.
Well, I meant more through subsidiaries and back channels and
men on your payroll.
Friends security that might end up in the same
I suspect it will be his staff. I'm sorry.
That's fair enough.
Kara reaches down to her make-believe pile of big pieces and like drags them in with her arm. And says, "Thank you so much for your time. We'll be in contact. Sleep well, and yeah, you'll hear from us tomorrow."
Make sure the speech is good, Stefan says.
I promise you, it will be memorable.
He nods and chuckles to himself.
Wait here. Don't open a door. Don't leave. I'll have someone fetch you when the coast is clear.
Thank you.
And he turns on his heel.
And I guess while we wait, we shall take a smoke, take a drink, take a toilet, and return in 5 minutes, I guess, to the same table.
Perfect time to have a break. You're absolutely right.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Cool. Right, 5 minutes.
See you in 5 minutes.
And we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for being so patient and not fast forwarding it when you're watching it on Wednesday afternoon. You fast forwarded it, but that's okay. As is tradition, after the break, we toast a man who is no longer with us, brought on the mission against his will, basically. Gone from being some kind of spy to serving drinks on a ramshackle ship for people he probably didn't even like. Shot dead on a planet when he didn't even want to be there. But we'll always remember him as a fine barman, a memorable member of the crew, if only for a short time. So if you'll join me in raising your glasses to the late, great Grey Hill Bast.
To Grey Hill Bast.
Grey Hill Bast.
Oh, we need another shooting competition at some point so we can get someone else to do all that every time.
The bet needs to be lost by someone else.
Yeah. Also, I'm worried that we're going to end up doing that for every NPC that dies.
As it gets longer and longer and longer.
It's going to be half-hour break.
As it should be. Well, that does have to be an extra episode.
Mostly just toasts.
the toasts episode.
It's all right. It's all right. We can pre-record them and just drop them into the middle.
Yeah, it's true.
Play the video, Luke.
Play the video. We get different people to toast. My daughter, some random on the street. Grey Hill Bast is saying. Grey Hill Bast.
We can do a sloppy episode where we just go through telling the life story of each of the NPCs and getting drunker and drunker as we go.
That doesn't sound like us. Right.
Okay. Back in the room. Literally back in the room, I guess.
Okay.
Waiting
so it's about half an hour or so before you are fetched, and then steered out the same way you came in. This time not to the waiting room itself, but past it and out into the main ship area, and then waved goodbye. And you know, the silent aide, who still hasn't spoken a single word, just sort of ushers you away as if you're now suddenly an embarrassment and in the way.
Kara shouts back, 2 out of 5.
Stefan was going to shout something at him, but you know, we're just sort of. Sever's just been sent home to the bar over the road, hasn't he, to sort some stuff out? So we'll try and keep it low key.
Right, so
okay.
What time of day are we finding ourselves now?
It's now essentially mid-evening.
Okay. Oh, we've got stuff to do. We could probably all do this from our room. Have we got any other reason not to be in our hotel room? We've not, have we, I guess?
No, I don't think so. We've got stuff to pick up in the morning, but that's about it, other than planning how we're going to go about all the tasks. They all have to be done in situ.
How sweaty is Johnny looking?
He at certain points he looked as if he was horrified at the complexity and the danger, but the further you get away from strife, the more relaxed he's starting to look.
Stefan sort of puts his arm around him and just says, "Come on, Johnny, we've got some peppermint schnapps to finish off." waggles the bottle and steers him in the direction of our rooms, I suppose.
Okay.
We might as well have him with us. I guess.
To the room.
To the rooms.
Why not?
I mean, we can always leave them again if we forget something. It's not permanent.
No, exactly.
Hopefully.
We'll stop on the way by that little offie that we did before. Cara will drop another, I don't know what it is, but 60 credits on some bottles of stuff.
Okay.
To sort of take back to the room. I guess Stefan's, all those promises of the peppermint schnapps, I'll get some nibbles as well. And, I'm slightly worried about Johnny, but we'll worry about that in a minute, I guess. Let's get back to the room. Cara will say, right, I guess we've got 3 things we need to do, and I guess these are 3 jobs that we can split over this evening. So we need to give the 50 mega credits back. We need to contact Premise. There's no point putting that off. And we need to get Krebs to invite Strife. Anyone got a decent way of doing that?
Stefan will say it would probably be better if it didn't come from us. Maybe if we persuaded his aide that it would be a good idea for her to suggest it to him. Makes her look like she's trying to help him out by embarrassing the rival, and clears any suspicion that we may be involved or that it might be a setup, I suppose.
Cara will say, okay, then that's Stefan.
Have we got our invites yet?
Yeah, where are our invites?
Yes, well, he has invited you. You're expected.
Yes.
It's not as if you have a formal invitation, but you are expected.
Well, does Stefan want to do that then? That was a good idea. Agnar is the best talker and has met Premise, so does he want to check with Premise about what was that? The prior agreement that the investigation of the death will be handed over to Premise, not that Premise actually has to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a particularly great talker. He's got a bit of deception, and the
he's got the social. He's got the social skills. He's a military man at least. I guess he was in the Imperial fleet.
Yeah, he's happy to do it if you want him to.
If we're doing money transfers, because it's computers, it makes sense for Cara to do money transfers.
Yeah.
Sarai's slightly worried about Johnny's alliances and wavering, if that makes sense. So, as the 4th thing of doing, Sarai would just like a word with Johnny, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So are we okay to do those 4 things in whatever order makes sense?
Why is he so nervous?
Well, yeah, why is he so nervous?
I mean,
whatever order you want to go in is absolutely fine. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do money transfer. It should be the quickest and easiest because it's our money and it's our money at the moment.
Yeah,
it's our system.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the relevant contact details that he gave you, which include an account that you can transfer the money into. So you fire the money across.
Yeah. Okay, goodbye money with a little tear in her eye. Oh, we were so rich.
50 million credits.
We'd have only blown it on something stupid though.
Just like that. Easy come, easy go.
Easy come, easy go. It's better to earn it the hard way.
Absolutely. Yeah. That way you know you've really suffered.
Exactly. It's very, all that suffered that time were Stefan's fingernails. I think he got a little bit scraped on one of them, picking it out.
Yes, as the money disappears, you can detect like a tear in the corner of Stefan's eye.
Yeah. Another big heist down the drain.
Yeah.
And what have I got to show for it? Friends.
But for 3 glorious days.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Do you want to do one of yours? Do you want to do one of yours next, Ewan?
Wonderful. Yeah. Can Agnar just drop a message to? Sorry, name. Pramus. I kept wanting to say Primus. Pramus. Drop a name to Pramus. Drop a message to Pramus and just say he'll be as vague as possible. Just something along the lines of, as per previous conversation, should events progress, can you agree at least to do the investigation? Not necessary for it to go ahead, but an agreement.
Okay. Roll persuade with int or social, whichever is your better.
Oh, social.
Social is much better, so that just makes it a regular -1.
Okay.
Luckily, maybe you got a 10 -1.
Okay, a 9. You get a response saying, if anything were to happen, the Imperium would naturally take over any investigation.
Okay.
Thank you. And he'll share the information with the rest of the group. Just let them know that that's the response we got. Seems by the book. It's to be expected, I suppose.
That's it. Military man to military lady. You both know which side your bread is buttered when it comes to such things.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. Next up.
I guess we'll alternate Soraya with Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why not?
How's Johnny doing while we're sat there? Sort of.
He's much more relaxed now, away from the immediate danger, with a drink in his hand. He's much more relaxed. Yeah.
Soraya approaches him and says, "Have you heard from your sister this afternoon at all?"
No. But I'll check in with her tomorrow morning. I'm sure she's doing well. She was well on the road to recovery.
Do you think she'd be disappointed if you didn't take in the festivities, the pair of you, tomorrow evening?
Well, I think she'd get over it.
It's just you were there. You know how the way things are going to go, and we don't want you guys to, I guess, get caught up in the middle of it at all.
Sure.
How are you feeling about the whole thing anyway? This whole data dump, none of which you'd known until then. How are you feeling about it?
It's a lot. You know, I usually carry messages from person to person, or guide people from the downport to a place they can gamble or a place they can stay, that kind of thing. My job description isn't normally instigate secret coup. It's a bit of a step up in my experience. It hasn't really prepared me for this kind of thing, to be honest.
It's understandable. Do you think we're siding with the right person? In your opinion of passing messages and taking people to brothels?
Well, you're siding with the efficient person. Whatever happens, it'll be on purpose rather than by accident and oversight, I guess. So if he's the right guy, then he'll do everything right. On the other hand, if he's the wrong guy, he'll really be bad.
But the Imperial is in orbit, Johnny, and they're not going anywhere. And there will be communications. And also, remember, you're coming with us at the end of the week, yeah, with your sister.
There is a certain relief to knowing that whatever happens, it'll be very much in the rearview mirror. Yes.
And you're happy to let us do what we need to do over the next day or so?
I suppose I want as little to do with it as I can get away with.
Okay, Soraya, hold out a little finger. Pinky promise.
Okay. Yes, he shakes a little finger.
Okay, good. Right,
Stefan shouts out, Johnny, here's the cyanide that you're going to need to poison. Yeah. He holds up like a bag of flour or something. Whatever's in the cupboards.
Yeah, a big
something crystalline.
Here's your pocket nuke.
It say, I'm only joking, and swig some more peppermint schnapps.
Right, I'm writing down Pinky Promise. Hang on.
Okay.
Pinky Promise. Says so. So I will say, look, just keep a low profile. Keep your sister safe. We're fond of her. We're growing fond of you. And just remember that, you know, in 30 hours time or something, we're gone. All of us. We're off.
Okay. With Sever.
But Sever's under quite strict requirements with the Promise of Pramus, who has more power than all of us combined, and then some.
Yes, but he might be angry.
He might be angry, but I would imagine that he's also in communication with Pramus, and he knows that we need to get him to where he needs to get to. Don't you? If he starts trouble with you, we've got your back, or at least your sister's got your back. That's probably more of a threat. To be honest,
she is the best of us. Agnar will pipe up from the room.
He's out,
okay.
He's allowed out for 6 hours a night. If that's the case, just go to your room. One of us will keep you company or something, and just avoid him.
All right.
Okay. All right. That's Soraya's.
You've eased him out a little bit.
I've tried to ease him out a little bit, and I just wanted to make sure that
he
wasn't total rat.
Caroused him.
Carousing, that's a bit carousing.
Wonderful. Does that just leave Stefan?
Yes, that leaves Stefan's job.
Okay, cool. From what I recall, wasn't Papa going to get his aide to send us the invitations, so we would have some form of contact information?
That's absolutely right. So you'll have details of it.
So Stefan will get her contact information off of Kara, I assume. His person. And just send a message and say, hi, it's Stefan from the idiots that met Papa today. Would you like a drink? I've got an idea that might be beneficial to you.
Roll persuade for me with.
Oh, no. Well, actually, no. Stefan's all right. He's got one persuade.
Oh yeah.
With social.
Now that social is the problem. Ooh, that is a double fives for a 10 plus 1 is 11.
Okay.
An indecent proposition.
Yes, quite quickly you get a response back saying, yes, sure. Whereabouts?
I will name the closest bar to our hotel, assuming it's not the place that we've met Sever before.
No,
there is unaffiliated.
There is actually one very close to the hotel. The opposite direction and the opposite side from the little off license you've been to, but it's in the same corridor basically.
Sure. Half decent place. You know, she works for the.
Yeah,
it's reasonably important.
Adequate.
Yeah, that'll do. He'll
Yeah.
message her and he'll wander across the road.
Okay, fair enough. It takes her about half an hour to get there.
Sure.
When she walks in, she's very much in sort of off-duty clothing. You know, not formal, much more relaxed. She spots you and wanders over and joins you at the table where you're sitting.
Perfect. He'll stand as she approaches and say, "Oh, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Can I get you a drink?" And he'll offer to buy a round.
Yes, thank you.
And fetch her whatever drink.
Yeah.
She would like.
She will have a brandy.
Oh, wonderful. He'll come back over with 2 brandies. Plonk them down on each chair and sit down and say, I'll be frank. We haven't been on the planet very long. We don't have many friends, and we are, I think,
I'm so lonely
on the planet. On the planet. And I think you could gather from our conversation with your employer earlier that we're looking to make more friends, and we're looking to return here more often, perhaps frequently. And it came across me today. I'm not exactly. I'm quite well adept at all this underhand subterfuge and embarrassment of public figures. I have embarrassed a few in my time. But I was suddenly thinking that it may be beneficial for your boss if he was to embarrass somebody, for them to be in the room at the same time. Namely Streif. Should he be willing to invite him to the party tomorrow night as he makes his speech? It would be a perfect opportunity for the cameras to get a nice close-up shot of a shocked face. And then I suddenly thought to myself, how can I use this to make more friends? Who could this information benefit? And I thought of your lovely self, and he'll raise his glass and take a small sip.
She takes a sip as well, and then roll a persuade for me, please.
as if the brandy isn't enough. You persuaded me. You're quite charming.
Yeah, that is true. That is an 8 plus 1.
Yeah, that's plenty. This is not a hard roll to hit, to be honest, this one. And she looks excited, actually eager, and says, that's a brilliant idea. That's really, really good. I don't know if Strife will come, but I mean, yes, I'll absolutely invite him. That would be wonderful.
I mean, can you imagine if he did, though? One of my friends who you met earlier today is an artist, and I was describing the idea to her, and she gave me some lovely visual shots of the camera panning over to a shocked Strife, having just been humiliated on television. I think it could work rather well if he does show.
Yes, a good idea. I'll make sure there are 2 people recording the event. Yes, that's a very good idea.
Well, I'd like to think it would also go some way to cementing some form of friendship between us and yourself, and we could further our relations, or at least have somebody to have a drink with whilst we're on the planet.
That's
in future.
Yes, a lovely idea. Absolutely perfect.
And he raises his glass and has a little cheers and a sip.
Yep. She absolutely joins you and is sufficiently enthusiastic that when a few moments later you've finished your drinks, she orders the next round for the pair of you.
Stefan's happy. Wonderful. He will make small talk and see the evening away and wander across the road at some point.
Yes.
Not particularly.
I mean, it actually, despite the subterfuge you've been doing, it's actually quite a pleasant night. Not least because this is a remarkably attractive woman, and so there are any number of people who come and go from the bar who look with real jealousy at Stefan for spending time with her in the evening, and that's always a sort of slightly nice feeling to have, like you're in the catbird seat,
Yeah, sure. He'll offer to walk her home and assume that she'll say no, and head over to the.
She's not interested in such things.
I say very well. Well, thank you for your company, and good luck with the invitation.
Thank you. I will. Well, I'll see you tomorrow.
You will indeed. And he'll head over the road, back up to the room, and say, "I've got some good news and I've got some bad news." The good news is that the invite will probably be sent. The bad news is that there's probably going to be 2 crews filming the speech now, which kind of helps. You know, one I sort of it wasn't my idea, but I pitched this wonderful close up on an embarrassed face. So there will definitely be one ready to capture Streif when the moment comes, which is perfect. You know, that's what we want. They'll already be there. But I suppose the problem comes, should they switch over to the other camera at any point? Perhaps we need to make sure that the original main shot camera crew, who is meant to be filming Papa, has some technical difficulties. And then they will have only one image to go to, and that will be our man.
I think there's a way to bumble into them or knock a line of sight out, I guess, or pull a plug or something.
I think
just have someone lurking for that.
Either that or whoever's in control of which picture is being broadcast.
Oh.
Just needs to keep it on that camera.
Sounds good to me. There's options.
There's options. It seemed like bad news at first. Turns out maybe not quite so bad. I thought it was going to be.
At least there's cameras there.
Who knows?
Okay. Well, that concludes all of your little submissions and side missions for this evening. So, does that end what you want to do for the evening, or do you have other things to discuss, or is there anything else you want to cover before bed?
I haven't got anything. What do we need tomorrow? We need the poison. We need which we can get in the morning.
We need to figure out who's doing what.
Who's doing what? We could discuss that now.
We've got time. I mean, we probably have time in the morning. We've got time before the event.
Well, we could look at that now. We could like the pieces on the table. We could work out who's going to do what tomorrow. So, what we need, what we've got is I guess poison, pick up and prep, because we need to make sure it's enough that sort of vanishes into whatever it is. You've got the poisoner. You need someone who's going to take charge of any camera, however we plan to do that, making sure there's some kind of mishap or a positioning on a camera.
Yeah, somebody needs to make sure. I guess somebody needs to make sure that they stay on the right guy, and somebody needs to make sure that it's being broadcast. Maybe?
Is there, now that Stefan has a friendship with Sil, is he worth? I don't know. Is there some way that he can kind of separate her slightly from the situation? I don't know. Like, I don't know how likely she is to blow it from her position, if that makes sense. Once he's poisoned, he's poisoned. Do you know what I mean? If that works out. Yeah.
It's the silver lining, the frosting on the cake.
Like, can he, when the poisoning is about to happen or whatever, can he lead her away? 'Cause she's probably the one that's most likely to be paying attention or waiting on hand. So can Stefan be on like Sil duty, I guess? Ready at a drop of a hat. Because he's our most astute, isn't he, at looking out for things. So he's probably the man that needs to be keeping an eye. But then his sleight of hand is probably the best for the poison.
Yeah, I mean, I forget what that comes under. Like, I assume streetwise or stealth.
Yeah, what would the slipping in of poison be? There's no stat for poisoning.
Well, no, I mean there isn't specifically, but I think there might be something under stealth actually, if I remember. I'm not absolutely certain about that, but I think it might be stealth.
Okay.
me just quickly check.
I also feel
yes,
as though
it's stealth dexterity.
Stealth dex. That's not one of mine then. That must be that must be Stefan, isn't it?
to be fair, Stefan or Ragnar both have a +3 on that. But Ragnar is a big varga. Well, a regular-sized varga.
Yeah. So if you're also looking for someone to be stealthy alongside, to surreptitiously get alongside the news crew and influence them, then that might be stealth dex as well. So that might be where Stefan and Agnar go.
I think that's the poisoner / camera mishap is definitely a Stefan Agnar thing.
Okay.
I think that's got to be because both of mine roll 0 at dex and 0 at stealth, I guess.
Did I get the impression from the aide that she would be working? Would that have come up in our conversation? Is she likely to be working with the camera on the floor rather than...
she'll be alongside or close to Krebs because she's his aide. So she'll be making sure he's ready, making sure he's in the right place, making sure he has his speech, that kind of thing.
I'll tell you what, I'll keep Kara on. Her strength, I guess, in this situation would be comms and any sort of holding communication lines together. Her computer skills are comms anyway, and if there's drinking happening, she's Carusa, she's a talker, so she can be the one that tries to sort of take people's attention away or make sure timings are right, like so-and-so's just about to happen.
Yeah, okay, so she's your roper.
Yeah, so roper, I like the sound of that. So Kara's the roper. Kara's ropey, so she might be after a few drinks. She needs to hold back on them. She needs to be professional. She's on the squash that day for once. So Kara's the roper. Agnar, Stefan, between them, your choice, I guess, is the poisoner / camera mishap. Which leaves Soraya. Soraya there in case of trouble, in case it all goes horribly wrong. Like, she's not very social. She's got the worst social. But she can take care of people if there's a runner or someone that tries to go for something or someone that tries to.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any way that she can maybe just keep her. If there's like a balcony or something that she can look over the view of the room,
like an Overwatch kind of thing,
and just see all the pieces. Maybe.
What's her streetwise and recon skills like?
So Saria's streetwise is a 1. Her recon she doesn't have, but she's got the jack of all trades, so she rolls at a -1.
Okay.
But the streetwise is a 1. She's actually got weapons. She's got sensors.
Okay.
And she's got a little bit of military tactics, a bit of survival, a bit of navigation, a bit of enough that she's not horrible at any of those things, if that makes sense.
So maybe you need her sort of by the entrance or something.
Yeah, I think so.
Possibly
just keeping things a little bit controlled. And if Kara's like, "Hey, something's happening," or Soraya spots it, she can stop someone coming in. In a careful way as possible, or step in and try and do something.
It's also worth pointing out that though you have been in this space, you've only been in that central lobby area and Krebs' office and anteroom. There are other spaces you don't know what's there or how they're laid out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's possible someone with a bit of reconnaissance skill might be useful at some point during the party, depending on, of course, when you're doing the poisoning and things like that.
So she can have a bit of a poke around and see what's needed.
It's possible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like a plan. Is there any way we can find out any information about the bar or the kitchen at this place, or do we want to literally do it at the table via a distraction?
It's risky. I'm guessing if loads of plates get bought out at once, it's a risky business to guess which plate it is before you kill.
Yeah, although I mean, I imagine he'd be top of the head table, if you will, if there's an equivalent. But you are right; it could go very wrong very quickly. Or somebody else in the room could cause a distraction at the opportune moment, and then Stefan could. I think it would be Stefan because he's got the rapport with the aide, and if she's going to be there, sort of overseeing and relatively close to Papa Chris, then that kind of makes sense.
So Stefan to be the poisoner.
Yeah,
to
I
do the
think
dirty deed. Agnar to do camera mishap when it happens. I reckon, at the table we'll cause some kind of kerfuffle in some way.
Yeah, as the food or drink is brought out, somebody makes something.
Yeah.
Not a scene, but something.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. And then we go from there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That sounds good.
Cool.
Sounds planned.
Okay.
That's our team. Oceans,
all right.
Oceans 4.
The B team.
The B team.
Yes, the B team. Quite right. That's exactly what you need.
And we're not actually asking Sammy to do anything for once. That's nice. That makes me feel warm inside, at least. Okay, then I guess that agreed. A couple of drinks maybe, but nothing to make them frazzled, I would imagine, for any of them. And then a sensible-ish bedtime.
Okay.
Yes, good idea.
Ben's plotting murders.
Okay. Yep. Just keeping on track, that's all.
It's ours.
As the Black Ops storm the building.
Okay. All right. Yep. I've got everything up to date that I need. Sorry about that. I was just catching up with what you were doing. So, okay, if that's all you have to discuss for the evening, then we can call it bedtime and get you up the following morning.
Sounds good.
Wonderful.
Nicely, though. Don't get us up too aggressively.
With only one day left, I believe.
Yeah, effectively, I mean, obviously you can stay as long as you like, but
yeah, sure.
But you can leave after one more night's sleep, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which might be worth doing in orbit in a shuttle. On an Imperial ship.
Let's see how it goes first.
Can we sleep in your
Yeah.
hold? Yeah. Okay. Right. First things first, I guess, is the poison. I guess. Are we all good traipse over? Who was it?
Who was it who was pretending as though they were living together?
I feel it was
couple.
Soraya and Stefan.
Yeah,
I think it was Soraya and Stefan, yeah.
maybe they should. I mean, everyone can wait outside. I don't suppose it makes much difference, does it? But just in case.
I think Soraya and Stefan go in for the poison, please.
Okay. You arrive at the shop, which is open. Go inside, and immediately the shopkeeper recognises you, and says, "Oh yes, here you go. I've got your poison for you."
Stefan's yawning the whole time, like, I didn't get any sleep. Those rats.
The rats. They're so noisy.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, it must be awful. These rats, you can't evacuate the compartment for some reason. I don't know. None of my business. Sorry. Anyway, so she hauls out these two quite substantial transparent plastic packages of white crystalline material. They look very much like granulated sugar, but they're a bit cloudier than that, not quite as sharply crystalline. They're a little bit cloudier than that, but in look. They are labeled very much with industrial labels, a big sort of warning sticker indicating that it's toxic, but I mean, other than a few little warning labels saying, this is highly toxic. The only thing actually written on it, which obviously is enough for those who know what they're doing, are the initials KCN. And she plonks the two of them down on the counter and says, "Here you go."
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I will reach around for a couple of flasks or something of that sort of size. I don't know. There must be some sort of flask or canister or container for your kids' packed lunch or something like that. Something that wouldn't stand out.
They're quite big. I mean, if you think about a kitchen packet of sugar,
we don't need all of them. We don't need all of it.
Each of them is twice the size of those.
Yeah, we don't need all of it. I don't think, do we? Let's face it. Sarai basically just wants to get a couple of these canisters, fill the 2 canisters, pay for them, however much that costs. That's fine. And for the rest, she'll sort of play the, "Oh, that's far more than we need, darling. Oh." So she'll pour it out of one and say, "No, one's fine," and sort of puts the one back, and sort of says, "We'll take it in these. We don't want to scare the children when we go in."
Okay.
Okay.
You might want to wash your hands now, though.
Oh, we will. Don't worry. Have you got a sink?
Washroom.
Yeah. And she sort of points you to a little fresher off to the side, looking completely baffled at this weird behaviour by people from off-world who order 2 kilos of something that they only need a couple of 100 grams worth of.
Exactly. We don't know what size bag they're in.
Poison out on her counter into discreet flasks, so as to not confuse rats, she imagines, and are frankly very blasé about this quite toxic material.
It's classic us.
Blasé is all of our middle names. It makes it very awkward when the mail comes.
To offset some of that, Stefan just says, "Oh, have you? Speaking of, looking after the children, have you got the KOSH or chemical data sheets for the substance that we might, or the equivalent of?"
Sarai says, "Oh yeah, have you got a pair of the plastic goggles and gloves I can get as well?"
Better safe than sorry, dear.
Yeah, I'll
sort of says Pat.
I'll drop like 50 credits or something to make it, for the carry on. So to get
for 50 credits, she will happily come up with some protective gloves. They're not technically designed for chemical work, but they'll function for that. And yes, some protective goggles. Again, typically, she's essentially a hardware store, so these are more just protection from flying fragments if you're welding something or cutting through something. It's that kind of goggle. But again, they're a little bit protective.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I think you've saved our sleep. And out they go, arm in arm.
Stefan yawns as she says that, like overly making a point of it.
Right. Yes. Okay.
And then we leave, I suppose.
Yeah, let's leave.
Okay.
Did we pay for it in the end?
I think I paid the
chemicals
originally? Ahead
yes,
of time.
you actually paid for the you paid for the cyanide previously, and you've now paid also 50 credits for the goggles and gloves.
I never
thought I'd double check.
I never short the working man or woman.
Well,
yeah, got to support your local shop.
Don't want to be getting our poison for free.
No, exactly.
I mean, it would be terrible to not leave a paper trail on the poison you're buying.
I'm assuming we paid the equivalent of cash.
Yes.
Sarai now sets light to the shop.
And everybody in it.
But we need to work out a way that we're going to get... You don't need much cyanide in something to kill someone. I'm sure...
Could you do a little search on...
I think that'd be a quite easy...
Height, body weight, how much we'd need.
That must be a relatively easy futuristic wiki search on...
Without whilst deleting your search history.
Using a private...
Clear search history, private window.
We'll use a VPN. We'll do a search on the lethality of cyanide, so we know how much we need to take with us.
For the purposes that you need, the amount of potassium cyanide that would be lethal to a human is measured in terms of milligrams.
Cool.
If you want it to be really fast and really reliable, then maybe a couple of 100 milligrams to be certain.
Okay.
However, it is not a lot of material. It's a pinch, which would easily do it. I mean, by a very large margin.
Okay. Just don't scratch your face after you've taken that pinch.
Yeah. What you do learn is that as a poison for killing people, cyanide does have one real disadvantage.
Smelly.
It is, but that smell is subtle. It smells of almonds, but that is a relatively subtle smell when it's in crystalline form.
Okay.
Crystalline potassium cyanide does slowly leak a little bit of hydrogen cyanide gas, and that does smell of almonds. The problem you've got is that it's extremely sharp in flavour. It feels like corrosive in someone's throat when they take a taste.
Okay, so he would know straight away, I've been poisoned, or they know something was up straight away.
He might not know he's been poisoned, but he would definitely immediately know something was wrong. It would be like drinking bleach, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, that is something for us to work out before next week, I feel.
So we can't even cut it with sugar.
Yes,
so, drinking bleach, but we've sweetened it a little bit.
Sweetened the
bleach. It's not quite as bad.
You have an extra nice smelling bathroom.
I'd got my head around bitter almonds so much that I thought, a little bit of sugar and it'll balance out quite nicely. It'll be quite palatable.
You know what we need to get?
Turns out, no.
Yeah, potassium cyanide, it's very powerful stuff, but it is very sharp. So overdosing would be potentially a problem because it would make it very hard to disguise the flavour at all. But even any lethal dose, he's likely to notice the taste.
Okay.
So we need to sort that out before the evening. And we also need to get Stefan one of those rings that you can so he can just tip his ring.
Those decoder rings.
Yeah, that you can fill it full of it and just drip it over the food. We need to find the way that Stefan is going to.
He has got his body pocket.
He's not going to sit next to him and like stab into himself and cut.
No. But if we talk about getting into the building with it in there and then going to the toilet and extracting it and putting it somewhere more accessible.
I like it.
I think would work.
I like it. So then
as long as we've got somewhere more accessible for him to store it.
So we can get it. So we can get it in, even if they search everyone with high searches.
Well, in theory, there's still there's still numbers associated.
Kara's got. If they do a scan, beep, 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 Kara's got a body pistol which can be given to Soraya. That gets through any electronic scans. So we've got a body pistol, so we can get a weapon in even if we're not allowed one, if they're checking weapons.
Stefan's got his...
Yeah.
Stefan's got his finger gun, if we need it.
Gun.
And he's got his body pocket.
Augment.
So we can get... So even if they're very strict on please leave your weapons at the door, which you might be, we've got 2 weapons we can get in. We've got a body cavity, and we can...
Bear in mind, one weapon can't be transferred to somebody else, because it's his arm.
It can be transferred, it's just...
This is the hand of Vecna.
Pass it on.
I'll swap you.
I feel we know we've got some planning to do for the evening, and looking at the time, I feel this is a good time.
I think we've reached bedtime in more ways than one. Yes,
I think it's next week is the big deal. It's the big evening.
It looks as if next week is going to be rather more token based.
Oh no!
The embodiment of all idiotic plans.
Yeah,
for everybody to watch.
It looks like it's all going to happen in one go. Yes,
I've enjoyed not having to roll initiative for a few weeks.
while.
Curses.
You can roll it right now if you like, and we can carry them over.
We'll just,
I've let the dice get cold. I'm not touching. I'm not rolling them at all.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
At least we can show up like an hour early next week and just
warm
the dice.
Just to warm up the dice. Yes. Yes. Let's say the travellers have reached the point where they choose to go to bed, and it is exactly there, that we will call this evening's adventure.
This evening. Fantastic. Thank you for those that have watched it through now and during the week. I hope you enjoy it. Join us on Friday, because it sounds like it could be like the end of a magnificent caper / adventure / action thing.
I thought you were going to say the end of a magnificent party then. We're all just going to die.
Right. And then we'll be re-rolling new characters the week after.
I never know when it's going to be a TPK.
The really good news is that going by our Twitch titles for the videos, this is episode 4. So obviously there was no Jar Jar Binks. And episode 5 is next week, which is clearly the best one. I think.
Yeah, but it's quite dark, though.
In my opinion.
It is exclusively social distancing that is stopping me from coming over there and beating you to death with a shovel at this point. Episode 5 is not the best one. On
which point, good night, everyone. Join us on Friday.
We'll leave you with that to debate.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll talk about this when the rest of you have gone.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.